Alright, so I'm going to try a video to present my project. We'll see how well this works. Determining the probability of finding Paleoindian artifacts across Michigan's Upper Peninsula using a machine learning generated Bayesian Logistical Regression predictive model. That's a mouthful. Let's get into it now. So, Paleoindians roamed the Upper Peninsula during the beginning of the Holocene era about 11,000 years ago. Many of their artifacts have been discovered all across the Upper Peninsula and especially in Marquette County, and there are many more to be discovered. So here's a quick look at my poster and what exactly we're doing here. So we're trying to determine the probability of artifact presence across the UP, as I said, and that's going to be created using a Bayesian Logistic Regression model, which will be coded in Python. It uses the PyMC3 library, and the final model will then be taken from there and put into ArcGIS Pro to create the map. Now moving on to the methods. What we start with is data of known Paleoindian sites in Marquette County, as well as data of stratified random samples from non-sites, and all that data includes information such as the elevation, slope, and distance to water for each of those locations and samples. All the known sites and known non-sites were then put into a CSV file, which was entered into Python in Jupyter Notebook, and it was coded to run a no U-turn sampler or NUT sampler. The output of that NUT sampler then spits out coefficients for each variable, which were then applied to the raster that contained data about the elevation, slope, and distance to water for the entire Upper Peninsula. Here's a look at the formula that was then applied to the raster calculator in ArcGIS Pro to create the final model. Before we get to the final model, I also want to take a look at the variables mapped out that were put into this. So here we have the initial output from the raster calculator with a probability from 0 to 95 of the likelihood of finding artifacts in certain locations. As you can see, there's nearly nothing along the Great Lakes coast. However, we're going to take a look now if we resample it and reclassify it, what kind of results we get. So with the resampling, I took out values from 0 to 20%, and so we're left with anything over 20%. And as you see, that took out nearly everything in the eastern Upper Peninsula and just left stuff in the western Upper Peninsula. So what does that mean? Taking a look back at the poster with the conclusions, most of the higher percentage areas fall in higher terrain where there's flat land. So these are areas where they're surrounded by lots of slopes, but the land itself there is flat. They're also close to water, and as I said before, they're all kind of in the western UP and none in the eastern portion. Inferences we can take away from this would be that area that is flat, high up, surrounded by slopes could protect Paleoindians from their surroundings, from the elements. Also, obviously close to water, because water is essential for life, that's basic. And Paleoindian life kind of revolved around hunting. Their settlements revolved around where they could hunt the best. And if you're up high, looking down over a flat area of land, you could have a good vantage point of the whole area and where you could hunt. So finally, in conclusion, the most likely place for Paleoindian artifacts to be in Michigan's UP would be in the western portion in higher terrain that also has flat ground. I have to add that we only use data from Marquette County, and there are other Paleoindian artifact sites around the UP, so that could skew results. Also, the lakes layer that we use to add in streams and rivers was current. We don't have the lakes layer from 11,000 years ago, so using that could also skew results, but overall I think it's a pretty good result that came out and it makes sense. Alright, so I believe that wraps this up. I think this video actually worked pretty well. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.